Well, we will continue our series on It's All in Your Mind. This will be lesson 7 of the series, It's All in Your Mind. I remember when we explored or taught on the Quimby Manuscripts, I think that our final lesson was lesson 18, which means we were on it for 18 weeks. But that's the longest of that we have spent on any one series. I think the other length of times have been about 6 weeks at the most, but not longer than that. I don't remember. This one, I don't know how many topics we will cover, but I do feel that tonight will not be the last topic on this series. It's all in your mind. Last week, the topic was ideas leave not their source. And as I got into it, I knew right away that I would need more time to complete the idea or the teaching. Ideas leave not their source. And so I announced that this week, the following week, would be part 2, ideas leave not their source. But while it actually will be, in essence, part 2 of it, I'm using a different working topic rather than calling it Ideas Leave Not Their Source, Part 2. Let's talk about why I'm focusing or choosing this as a topic to specify or to bring direct attention to, and that is to help us more and more understand how to turn from appearances, to learn how to pray for the right thing, then we'll get the right answer. How to stop praying for problems, how to stop reinforcing the idea of the problem, or how to stop making the error real. We don't know. Well, it was Tennyson, the poet, says, more things are wrought by prayer than this world can imagine. So little do we realize that perhaps, it is our prayer and the way that we are praying, or the consciousness from which we are praying, that is really enabling and sustaining the life of the problem. And so understanding this concept or the principle that ideas leave not their source is designed to help us rise above that, is to avoid that mistaken prayer. So with that, I will share the handout. Our theme is It's All in Your Mind. And the topic for part 7 is, where is the sickness? Where is the pain? Where is the problem? Where is the hurt? Where is the pain? Part 7. And these concepts or these teachings or principles are still based on the lessons in A Course in Miracles. And also we are citing the Science of Mind textbook by Ernest Holmes. And we're specifically referring to the 1926 edition of the Science of Mind textbook, the original Science of Mind textbook. Quimby says, when I say the disease is in the mind, when I say the sickness is in the mind, when I say the trouble or the problem is in the mind, what I mean when I say disease, pain, or sickness in the mind is that it does not exist anywhere nowhere else. Now, this has been quoted and stated before, so let's hang out with it for a moment. What do I mean, Quimby says, when I say that disease, when I say that pain, that our sickness is not anywhere else but in the mind? That's important to me as a teacher in teaching people how to pray, is to bring your attention first to say that you, in prayer, you have to begin right to end right. And that there is risk that it is your prayer that is sustaining the problem, reinforcing the problem, giving the problem life by making the problem real, by making the error real. This is why I say to people, I don't want anybody praying for me. Thank you very much. I got this. So, when we say ideas leave not their source, let's again review and throw some light on what do we mean by idea or ideas. We're talking about beliefs. Beliefs leave not their source. Impressions in your and on your subconscious mind leave not their source. An idea or belief or concepts or perceptions or thoughts or feelings and attitudes leave not their source. Their source is their mind. Everything begins in mind. It's all in your mind. It is nowhere else and can be nowhere else because there is nowhere else. A Course in Miracles helps us to understand that. So as a review, we quote from the textbook, chapter 26. And it says, ideas leave not their source and their effects, but seem to be apart from them. And their effects, but seem to be apart from them. Ideas are of the mind. Thoughts, perceptions, concepts, opinions are of the mind. What is projected out, your ideas, your feelings, your opinions, your thoughts, your concepts and attitudes, are projected out and seem to be external to the mind. And it's not outside at all, but an effect of what is in and has not left its source. What is projected out and seems to be external to the mind is not outside at all, but an effect of what is in and has not left its source. Effects are seen as separate from their source and seem to be beyond you to control or to prevent. And this is why it makes it difficult for me to heal or be healed. I feel that this is out of my control. And basically, because of what I am feeling, what I am sensing, from what I am experiencing. Experience is external. Feeling is, so the pain is external, but I'm feeling it as internal. And this is a fine line here, or no line, that we are working on healing in our mind. And in our teaching, we call it, especially through A Course in Miracles concept, we call it healing the separation. And that's our goal here, is healing the separation. The separation is your belief in outside and inside. And we think that what is outside is separate from what is inside or apart from what is inside, healing the separation. And when you understand chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the book of Genesis, especially chapter 2 and 3, chapters 2 and 3, you see the beginning of the separation. But the beginning of the separation is a seeming separation. Separation, of course, in Miracles will interpret another term for separation is sin. That's how it defines sin, as separation, which is a belief in separation from God. And that's how it defines sin. And so to our lessons here is helping us to heal the separation or heal the concept of sin. Effects are seen as separate from their source and seem to be beyond you to control or to prevent. Cause and effect are one, not separate. Cause and effect are one, never separate. We think that they become separate. That's seeming. That's seeming. Science of Mind, chapter 19, from 1926 edition, the original Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes says these few words, about one page, a page and a half here. He says, we acknowledge, now listen for him to say the same thing that we just read in quoting A Course in Miracles in a different way. Ideas leave not their source. We acknowledge that there are truths to be learned from the Bible. And in the first chapter of Genesis, verse 26, it says, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Our ideas leave not their source. To fully understand this statement, let us make man in our image and likeness, it is necessary for us to understand what the word or symbol God represents. The word or symbol God represents. When we use the word, the symbol God, it should call to mind all that is and all that exists in the invisible world and the visible world. They are one. All that exists in the invisible world and the visible world, we see separation between the invisible world and the visible world, and we live as though there is a separation. That's the meaning of sin. Sin is the belief in separation. When we use the word God, it should call to mind all that is and all that exists in the invisible world and the visible world, since everything that is made of infinite spirit. There is nothing that is made that is not made of infinite spirit. Therefore, God is in everything and everything is in God. That is a hard notion, not only to understand, but more to accept when it comes to looking at your disease, your sickness, your problem, your trouble, your inharmonies, your disasters, your chaos, your confusion in life. So we have nothing is good or bad. Thinking makes it so is the principle just spoken of. Since we are made in the image, since we are made, that's the way you read that. Watch how I'm reading this with intonations and reflections and emphasis on certain parts here. Since we are made in the image and likeness of infinite spirit, then we create. through the same principle as God. Since we are made in the image and likeness of God, then we create through the same principle as God. As God creates, we create like God. We're made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, we create through the same principle as God. This infinite spirit, and under the same law of cause and effect. Ideas leave not their source. It's just explained there again. Ideas leave not their source. I'm made in the image and likeness of God. Ideas leave not their source. It is necessary then that we remember that we live in two worlds. How? At the same time, left foot, right foot. We walk. We live in two worlds at the same time. The invisible world of cause. That's one world where thoughts and ideas are the creators, and the material world of effect, where the results or manifestations of our thoughts and ideas come into being. Ideas leave not their source. What are we learning in this lesson specifically? Where then is the pain? Where then is the sickness? Where then is the hurt? Where is the loss? Where is the inharmony? Where is the hindrance to answered prayer? It's all in the mind, because ideas leave not their source. Problem is not outside in the external world. So we don't pray for the appearance. You pray for the cause. Your prayer is always in the mind, upon the mind. And so Ernest Holmes continues to write in the 1926 edition of the Science of Mind textbook, as well as the current modern day book. But here things are worded a little bit differently, but it's the same captions and headlines and are found in the newer book as well. He talks about the law of creation. That's the title here. But I'm pausing here to say that we're talking about the law of creation when we say ideas leave not their source. He says the principle or law of creation, but he's quoting Matthew chapter 5, verse 18. He says, the principle or law of creation is so exact, and this is the Matthew 5, verse 18 verse. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. These are the words of Jesus. Matthew 5:18. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Ideas leave not their source. Another way of saying this is that it is done unto you as you believe. One jot or one tittle, your beliefs, your feelings, your attitude, your opinions, and the beliefs that you've taken on of others, and the opinions that you've taken over and accepted of others, race consciousness. One jot or one tittle of every word that goes forth out of your mouth, whatever thoughts or feeling that you're radiating and emanating, that you're believing, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, because the law is created. The law is always responding to your thought, your feeling, your attitude, your beliefs, and your knowing and it will come to pass till all be fulfilled. Until and unless you make a change in whatever that has been planted, that seed has been planted. That seed must be supplanted It must be supplanted. A new seed must be planted in the ground over it. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. A perfect example of this is a seed planted in the ground growing into a plant. You have seeds planted in your ground, in your soil, in your subconscious mind that you've given to the Father, which is your subconscious mind. And it's by law cannot reject it. It must receive it and accept it and act upon it and bring to pass the invisible idea, concept, belief, feeling, and attitude that is in that seed. The ground knows how to fulfill it, to bring it to pass. It is growing. Our mental science teaching here is teaching us how to supplant a new garden, supplant new seeds, so that we may receive new plants. That's called healing. The idea of the plant, the idea of the plant was invisible in the seed. The idea of the plant, ideas leave not their source. Beliefs leave not their source. The idea of the plant was invisible in the seed before it was ever planted in the ground. And that particular seed, belief, will produce only the particular plant which is invisible in the seed. Now, this statement we're going to repeat a few times in the following lessons as we go forward. In the Science of Mind textbook, continuing, Ernest Holmes says, disease is mental. Now, what we're reading now is another way of saying what we've already said in the quote of A Course in Miracles and in that quote from the Science of Man textbook. That same idea concept is being restated here a little differently. Every disease, every sickness, every problem, every concern, every worry that comes up through subjectivity or appears in the body must come up through mind. It must come up through mind as an idea, as a belief, as a concept, as a perception, as an opinion, as a thought, as a feeling. Every disease must come up through the mind. Bodies of themselves do not get sick. Bodies of themselves, independent of mind, cannot get sick, does not get sick. But yet that's the consciousness from which we pray. That's how we think. When we think from the consciousness of separation, we give the body power to be sick and to become sick. We give the body's power to experience pain and sickness. It comes from our mind. We imbue the body with that power. We perceive the body as having that power to be sick, to get sick, or to experience pain. And this was what we're learning is how to change our mind, change our thinking. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. All healing is mental healing. Disease is mental. All healing is mental healing. So we can say mental/spiritual, but what we mean is mental, mind. For instance, when the life principle deserts the body, okay, let's go to the morgue right now and let's see some bodies laying on a slab there. For instance, when the life principle deserts the body, it is what we call a corpse. A corpse is a lifeless and inanimate thing. The corpse no longer becomes sick. It cannot become sick. We understand that it could not get sick unless there were intelligence there to cognize the trouble. Follow that. There's no intelligence in that corpse. Therefore, it cannot get sick or be sick. Since the body of itself cannot become ill or hurt or contract disease unless there is intelligence there to recognize and feel it, then disease is primarily a mental thing. Without mentality, without intelligence, it is not. And yet with mentality, it appears to be. And yet with mentality, it appears to be. Since the body of itself cannot become ill or hurt or contract disease unless there is intelligence there to recognize and feel it, then disease is primarily a mental thing. Without mentality, without intelligence, it is not. And yet, with mentality, it appears to be. Judge not according to the appearance. It seems to be. It appears to be. The pain appears to be. The sickness appears to be. Without mentality, it is not. And yet, with mentality, it appears to be. So, ours is to withdraw the mentality, to withdraw the intelligence. But instead, we are unknowingly empowering the body or the sickness or disease with our intelligence, the only intelligence there is. It is our intelligence or mentality that's giving it the life of pain or the life of sickness. Judge not according to appearance. Ideas leave not their source. This is why this is taught in a series. These lessons can stand alone, but you see the connectivity here. We see the building blocks here. We see going deeper and deeper and deeper into this understanding and higher and higher and higher in this understanding. And what we are imagining is that our unconscious, we are empowering our use of the unconscious mind, the infinite, the instinctive man that is within us. And we're learning how to commune with the Father that is within. You're learning how to commune with this unconscious mind. You're learning how to give direction to this unconscious mind. That's intelligence. It is not unintelligent, but the intelligence is directed through your prayer. That's where prayer comes in. We're giving it direction. For instance, a contagious disease is physically contagious between two living people, but it is not contagious between two dead people. That's something to think about. A contagious disease is physically contagious between two living people. Why? Because there's intelligence there. But it is not contagious between two dead people. Where we're getting to here is that there's no intelligence in that body. There is no mentality in that body, just the same there's no intelligence in a corpse, no mentality in a corpse. The same is true for this body that you're walking around in. There is no intelligence in that spiritual matter. There is no mentality in that body that you're living in, yet that's where you're experiencing the pain and the suffering and the sickness. And we're learning how to do spiritual healing here. How to pray scientifically is what we're learning. It might take a little time. The dead body cannot catch sickness or disease from the living because the intelligence has departed. Likewise, this body that I'm sitting in right now shouldn't be catching anything because there's no intelligence in it or mentality in it, but it is what I believe. And this conditioned thinking is what needs to be healed. The basis of Dr. Quimby's theory is that there is no intelligence, no power or action in matter of itself. The body is made of spiritual matter. Spiritual matter. The body is a form of spiritual matter. Spiritual matter contains no intelligence. It is directed by intelligence. Spiritual matter is mind unformed, unconditioned mind that is governed by intelligence, directed by intelligence. The basis of Dr. Quimby's theory is that there is no intelligence, no power or action in the body of itself, in matter of itself. In this spiritual matter is universal. It is eternal. It is without beginning or end. It is invisible. It is everywhere present and everywhere equally present. It is spiritual substance, invisible, intangible. And out of it, my body is created a form. But it is mind that gives it direction through intelligence. That the spiritual world to which our eyes are closed by ignorance or unbelief is the real world. So I'm going to read that from the beginning. The basis of Dr. Quimby's theory is that there is no intelligence, no power or action in matter of itself. That the spiritual world to which our eyes are closed by ignorance or unbelief is the real world. And so that concludes Ernest Holmes. Well, we've gone into Quimby's theory here. So continuing with Quimby's reference here, and I think this is Irvin Seal, the author of Mingling Mind, who's writing about Quimby. He says, Mr. Quimby infers that ideas that cannot be seen are as real as those which can be seen. Ideas leave not their source. Ideas that cannot be seen are as real as those which can be seen. But this is real in your mind. It doesn't mean that it's real in your imagination as though imagination is some fancy or some illusion. No. Real in the sense that this is where you're feeling it. This is where the sensation is in your mind. This is where it's registering. This is where it exists in your mind. Ideas that cannot be seen are as real, the disease is as real as those which can be seen. Then man can account for his troubles, he says, as easily as he can account for injuries caused by an accident. Some ideas contain no intelligence because the author puts none in them. Some ideas contain no intelligence because the author puts none in them. You know, as soon as I read that, I took myself back to childhood, being raised by my mother, a mother of many superstitions, who ingrained and planted so many superstitious beliefs in me that were passed on to her and that she uh, assumed by race consciousness. And I know that I'm the only person here tonight who fit this category. I can remember you go out in the rain without a cap or a hat, you're going to catch cold. If you don't put this or that on, you're going to catch cold. And we couldn't take a bath or a shower or something like that in the morning and then go to school or go out. And even as an adult, if I would, especially in the winter, take a shower or a bath in the morning, no matter how much time I have to dry off or get warm in the house in the morning, if I go out and get in my car and go someplace before I come home, I have a cold. Why? Because I put the intelligence in that. Some ideas, and here another person can do the same thing. We have people who go out in the snow and play with no clothes on, and there's no effect of getting sick. Some ideas contain no intelligence. So the person didn't put any intelligence in that event, or that situation. Therefore, they are not their body is not affected by it. The body does not get sick. The body doesn't get sick. It's the intelligence that is directed to the body that makes it sick. Some ideas contain no intelligence. Therefore, and likewise, if you didn't direct intelligence, give intelligence toward the opinion of the doctor when she or he first says it, then you walk away not receiving the sickness. Whereas another person, as soon as the doctor says it, their intelligence accepted, they give it intelligence, they give it acceptance, and boom, before you go to sleep, the disease or the sickness is manifested. Some ideas contain no intelligence. So what are we doing here? Learning how to withdraw the intelligence that we've given intelligence to, how to remove, how to destroy, how to withstand, how to withdraw that intelligence, and how to stop directing intelligence to the disease, to the problem. It is done unto you as you believe. Intelligence. Some ideas contain no intelligence because the author puts none in them. If a subject or a patient can be unpleasantly affected by a mere suggestion, we're talking about the power of suggestion when we talk about intelligence, when we're talking about mental suggestion. If a person can be unpleasantly affected by a mere suggestion, giving it intelligence or power, then one can utilize this power, this same power, by redirecting, by directing the mind with intelligence, and so disabuse it of its errors. We can supplant that problem with new ideas. We can change our thinking, change our beliefs. Change your thinking, change your beliefs, supplants the problem, and you get a different plant. Since minds are reached directly in any event by mere opinions working mischief, we all have it in our power to reach minds wisely, just the opposite. Thus, it becomes a question of developing that wisdom, that truth, that science, that way of thinking, as Quimby later called it. He called it wisdom, which should free people from adverse suggestions. ideas leave not their source. Since minds are reached directly in any event by mere opinions working mischief, we all have it in our power to reach minds wisely. Thus, it becomes a question of developing that wisdom, as Quimby later called it, which should free people from their problems. Mingling Minds by Irvin Seal. Here he talks about the captain's arm. The captain, I guess the captain was in war, and the severing of his arm. He lost a part of his arm. We shall continue to emphasize and enlarge and deepen the understanding that pain is in the mind in a particular sort of way by this illustration, by this example of a man losing part of his arm. Quimby asks, is it all in your mind? Most certainly, he says, because it cannot be anywhere else. Where there is no mind, there can be no experience. Remove your mind from the problem. Where there is no mind, there can be no experience. Troyd, he's quoting the philosopher Troyd, has said, if a thing is true, there is a way in which it is true. So let us be sure to see the way which Quimby's statement is true. The Quimby writings frequently recall, the Quimby writings frequently recall the case of the young Army captain who had been wounded in the wrist by a weapon and whose arm had been amputated below the elbow. Let's use our imagination here, visualization. Here is an Army captain in war, and a weapon, it has severed his arm below the elbow, the hand below the elbow. He still felt the pain of the wound, and it caused him much suffering. The arm is amputated below the elbow. Nothing is there, but he still feels the pain, and he suffers. Although the surgeons had removed the arm, they had not been able to remove the pain. What are we doing here? We're learning how to remove pain. To remove pain is mental work. It's spiritual work. It can be done. Today, doctors call this phantom pain, the appearance of pain, the illusion of pain, the shadow of pain. And we are hurting and suffering from a shadow, from an illusion, from an appearance. We are giving an appearance that does not exist the power to make us sick and suffer. We have as if it is beyond our control. Now, where was the pain? Our theme is it's all in your mind. Our topic for lesson number 7 is where is the pain? And so the question is asked, where was the pain? Quimby asked. It was not in the arm, for the arm was gone. It was not in the flesh or matter, for there was none. The flesh or the matter was not there, but yet he felt it. Where was he feeling it? He was feeling it in his mind. He felt pain in his arm, but he had no arm. Where was the pain? It was in his mind, and it was real. Quimby says, I'm not saying that it wasn't, that the disease is not real. Quimby said, I never said it was not real. There's some other philosophers, some other teachers said that. I'm just saying that it's real in your mind, not in your body. He felt it and suffered from it. It was not in his mind in the sense of imagination or delusion, but rather in his mind as a strong impression persisting from the day when he had a healthy arm and the arm was shot. From that day, he was susceptible to that strong impression and he still felt the pain. The mind is a medium for two kinds of intelligence or information. The mind is a medium for two kinds of intelligence or information. Quimby calls them two directions. And so these words right here are so critically important in understanding scientific prayer and in understanding Quimby's theory. And the word direction here is critically important. You are always giving the mind directions. The mind waits on my directions. And it is receiving, it says, not a jot or not a tittle shall be unfulfilled. Every jot and tittle will be fulfilled. You're giving your mind directions. And those are directions are from your ideas. Ideas leave not their source. Ideas are your opinions, your perceptions, your beliefs, your attitudes, your predominant feelings or directions being given to the mind, and the mind must bring it to pass. Likewise, but what's empowering is that therefore our empowerment lies in the fact that we can change the directions that we give it at any time. It's up to us. Quimby often calls them two directions. The mind is a medium for two kinds of intelligence or information. Quimby calls them two directions. Intelligence comes from two sources: the environment or material world and the material world, the environment or material world and the immaterial world. That's two. The environment or material world and the immaterial world, or to say it another way, from the world of form and the world of formlessness, which is spirit, or from the world of form and the world of formlessness. The biblical words for these same two are heaven and earth. Repeated impressions from the same source, become established as assumptions and presumptions, and with emphasis become obsessions or fixed states of mind. Repeated impressions from the same source become established as assumptions and presumptions, and with emphasis become obsessions or fixed states of mind. Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better becomes an established assumption and presumption, and with emphasis become obsessions giving direction to the mind, and it becomes a fixed state of mind, and correspondingly its likeness outpictures itself as health, prosperity, or whatever it is that's for me is answered prayer. Repeated impressions every day in every way. I am getting better and better. Repeated impressions. I see these pieces of ice melting away, melting away. So I'm going to take them to bed tonight. And as I fall asleep, there are three pieces of ice, but as I wake up during the night, I see that pieces have dissolved, I'm making an impression upon my subconscious mind that the belief is melting away, melting away. Every day in every way, I am getting better and better. I have fixed in my mind that it's already done. It's already finished. I'm already there. I already got it. I'm already experiencing it. Well, that's just happening in the fourth dimension of my mind, but objectively in the third dimension, it has not manifested. It has not come to pass. So I'm saying by the third Sunday, which is a metaphor, I will walk into it. I will be clothed with it. I will feel it and have it tangibly in my experience. So I'm giving the subconscious mind a direction and a deadline. I want it by that time. I see it happening by that time. So that's the third Sunday. Between now and the third Sunday, which is the fixed state of mind, is my meantime. In the meantime, I'm a crab hidden between two rocks, and I've shedded the old shell, and now universal mind, divine intelligence, has a way of drawing all the elements together to clothe me with a new shell in the meantime. And the materialization of that new shell manifesting is my third Sunday, metaphorically speaking. Repeated impressions from the same source become established as assumptions. The crab has established an assumption and a presumption, and it be still. And it lets divine intelligence now create that shell around it. Today, we refer to the fixed states of mind, these fixed states of mind, as being subconscious. But the term was not current during Quimby's time, subconscious. His way was to distinguish between thoughts as the conscious function of mind and beliefs as the subconscious function. I found, Quimby says, that my own thoughts were one thing and my belief another. I found that my own thoughts were one thing and my belief another. It is done unto you as you believe. Your fixed, established assumptions and presumptions need to be changed. I found that my own thoughts were one thing and my belief another. If I really believed, if I really believed in anything, if I had a conviction, if I had a knowing, if I knew and knew, if I know and know that I know, then the effect would follow, whether I was thinking of it or not. If I really believed in anything, the effect would follow, whether I was thinking of it or not. To go back to the army captain now with the severed arm, we can see that his senses were attached to the idea of an arm. To go back to the captain with the severed arm, we can see that his senses were attached to the idea of an arm. I can see that my senses are attached to the idea of a sciatica nerve, the idea of prostate cancer, the idea of cancer, the idea of disease, the idea of sickness, the idea of fear, the idea, fill in the blank. Ideas leave not their source. We can see that his senses were, see, the intelligence, your intelligence is attached to that problem, to that opinion, to that sickness. We have to withdraw our intelligence. We have to change our mentality, our mental thinking, change our mind. His senses had not yet attached themselves to the new idea, the idea of a lost arm. His senses, his attention is still attached to what was there, not what is there, and it's attached to what it is not there. My sickness is an attachment to what is not there. Sickness is making the error real. Pain is making the error real. Sin is making the error real. His senses had not yet attached themselves to the idea of a lost arm. It has not attached itself to the idea of being healed. The physical arm had been removed, but his sense still retained the awareness or sensation of an arm. And that is why he felt pain. That was a choice. That was the physical arm had been removed, but his sense still retained the awareness or sensation of an arm. And that is why he felt pain. So, what did Quimby do? Quimby did what the doctor could not do. Quimby took hold of the stump and carefully explained the situation. The stump he did not feel, the man, but the hand was as real as the other. The captain felt the hand, and the doctor could not change his mind. But Quimby was able to change his mind by explaining away the trouble. He felt the hand, and the doctor could not change his mind by telling him that the hand was gone. This was false in the true sense, for his hand was a part of his senses, and the phenomenon that could be seen was nothing to his senses. This was false in the true sense, for his hand was part of his senses, and the phenomenon that could be seen was nothing to his senses. He had a hand, and it troubled him. So Quimby said, I took hold of the stump and then felt of the stump and became quiet, satisfied that it was teaching him, getting him to understand that it was better to have one arm and be happy and well than having two and be in torment. The man thought about it. Now, if Quimby had been as unable as the doctors to change the captain's mind, he could not have got rid of the pain and misery. The man was relieved of his pain and misery because he accepted the idea. Ideas leave not their source. Ideas leave not their source. He was able to successfully supplant the old idea with a new idea. He was able to get the man to change his belief, change his thinking, change his mind. His pain was in his mind. His pain left his mind. We have tried to establish and embellish one of the main concepts Quimby's philosophy and science and practice is, namely that we have tried to establish and embellish one of the main concepts Quimby's philosophy and science and practice is, namely that disease is not independent of the mind and cannot and does not exist by itself. Sickness and suffering and trouble cannot exist by itself, and that sickness, pain, or problems follow the belief that disease has an independent life or is an independent life. Where was the disease? Where was the pain? Where was the sickness before you knew about it? The question is asked. Mind the knower is also mind the maker. So when I say the disease or pain is in the mind, Quimby says, I mean that it does not exist anywhere else. This understanding lights up the mind in freedom, banishes 1,000 devilish fears, and restores the mind to its kingly confidence. And so it is.